Hello everyone, my name is Bjork and today I want to start a brand new survival series where not only do I build things, I teach. I teach you how to build things as well, like the houses behind me. So we're just gonna jump into my brand new survival world, which I've had for about 2 years at this point, and I'm gonna jump on one of my dozens of fully maxed out horses and put on all my netherite, and we're gonna go to the location that I have already scouted out. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to show you how to build is a house. Now, building houses is such a complex topic that I could make an entire series just on that alone, but we're going to start simple. So the very first thing you need when building a house is a location. Now, I scouted out this really nice looking valley with this hilltop and these mountains. Now, the thing that a lot of tutorials don't show you is the amount of work you might have to do in clearing the landscape in survival. So this terrain is very much not safe. It's got giant holes, and I'm sure I'm gonna walk into a bunch of them. So we just need to flatten this out first, and we need to fill in all of these holes. And sometime later, the terrain has been flattened. Now, I decided to leave all of these little holes so we could turn them into like cute little lakes or something later. But for now, let's get to building. Alright, so we're gonna put our first house right over here. Now, I feel like most house tutorials kind of overcomplicate things, so we're gonna start small and simple. And that's why I probably should have filled in all of these holes. So when I'm trying to come up with a new, interesting design for a build, it can help to come up with a theme or a story. Now, this doesn't have to be anything super special. It might be, oh, I want a medieval build, or I want something like colorful or fantastic, or just like suburban or modern. So it just helps to have some sort of template for how you are going to design your build. So what's our theme for today? Well, this area is going to have a really important function in my world, and that is as an area for rescued wandering trader llamas. Yes, that is correct. I have been stockpiling wandering trader llamas, and I want to resettle them all in this beautiful area. So we need a house for the llama keeper, and that house is going to go right here. So one of the first things you need to decide when you are building a new house is the dimensions. I want this house to be practical for survival, but not too big because it's a simple hut after all. So this hut is going to measure 7 by 9. And one of the most important things you can learn about building is that we usually do things in odd numbers. And this is because you want to have a single block be the center point. So why 7 by 9? Well, once we get the floor in, I can show you that this is basically the smallest practical size for survival. Remember, your interior is going to be 1 block smaller than your exterior. And once you start putting in decorations and furniture and stuff, you won't be left with a whole lot of extra room. So this basically gives you a 3 by 5 living space. And I decided to rotate the build. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is the color palette. So I've chosen to use Tough at the base here, and then we are going to use Blue Terracotta for the rest of the walls. Now, using a more interesting block than cobblestone can do a lot to make your build look super interesting. So you might be asking, how do I actually come up with a color palette? So I kind of knew from experience that these 2 blocks look good together, but you can always just go into a creative world and you can open up the block choice thing and just kind of experiment and see what looks good together. Now, one of the reasons that it can be helpful to come up with a theme or a purpose for your build is because it can help dictate your block palette. So since this area is for the llamas and, it's kind of in a flower forest, I thought it would be nice to have a build that was like colorful, but not too colorful. And so that's why the muted terracotta looks really good. That's also why it could be helpful to have a sort of stony base. So we do tend to see a lot of like, stony foundations in colder areas. And I mean, having a single line of blocks be something else, which is what I like to call an accent stripe, can really add a lot to a build. Now, since this is kind of like a home for a poor llama farmer, we're going to texture this up a little bit and make it look kind of weathered by making the tuff come up a little higher. So it looks like the paint on the building is kind of peeling a little bit, and also because I'm out of terracotta and I need that to go there. So we'll just add some texture here. And that little amount of variation already made this house so much more interesting. And speaking of interesting, let's talk about roofs. So there's a tendency to use stairs for roofs. Now, you can make your roof look so much more interesting by just using slabs. Placing slabs. Now, a roof can look really plain and kind of awkward like this, so we're gonna put on some trim. And done. So we do need to texture up this very monotonous roof. So the way I like to do texturing is I like to have little areas, and I do, maybe 2 in a row and then 1 coming off of it, just like so. And then you want like a kind of balance, so I feel like there should be 1 here, and then we're gonna need a little bit more in this section, and maybe up here. So you don't really want to overdo it with texturing. I think maybe 1 more here and then we'll be good. Now, speaking of texturing, I have intentionally left these holes here because we're going to fill them in with logs and just strip them just like that. And that will help add a little bit more variation in our very rectangular build. Right, I'm not sure I mentioned, but I am teaching you how to build basically the smallest livable rectangular prism, because I feel like too many house tutorials bog you down with like making complex shapes and connecting them all at once. So we're basically doing the simplest possible rectangle and adding other things to make it look interesting. So one of the other things you can do to make it look interesting is having like supporting logs coming out of the side here, like so, just to add just a little bit more shape. Now, this section here is very long and straight and uninteresting, so we're just gonna replace parts of it with some stairs. Now, stairs and trapdoors between these overhanging logs, like so, is a great way to show a little bit more support. And I love using blackstone buttons on these logs to add just a little bit of extra detail. Now, let's add a little porch area. So we'll just do a small little thing coming out like this. Some tuff as an entrance. Now, this block here is always kind of awkward because you never know if you should use for the doorway like the same block you use for your floor or you do for your little entrance. So I like to solve that problem by just using a note block because it kind of looks like a little welcome mat. So we'll put in our door like so, and just a few more extra details. And now, for the final details. So there's a really common design that people use to decorate windows. So you can take a slab like so, and you add 2 little wings, and then some fences coming down. And we're just gonna put like a little flower box here, and some stairs to the side. Now, usually people will use like the same color stairs, but I think it's more interesting to mix it up a little bit. So, and then maybe a jungle trapdoor and whatever flower you like. I just really like lilies. Hey, I think that looks really nice. Of course, there are multiple ways of doing a little flower decoration. So over here, we can do maybe some trapdoors all the way around, like so. and a flower in the window. It's generally a good idea to not overcomplicate things on a small build, so we're just gonna mirror the same designs on the opposite sides. And there you have it. Super simple cabin where my llama herder should feel right at home. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That house is cute and all, but it's just too small for survival. I mean, look at the interior. You can barely fit anything in here. So you might be asking, Bjork, can you give us something that is a rectangular prism, but also actually practical for survival? And also cute? And why, yes, I can do that. Let's just go over here to this area that I flattened out at the beginning. We build survival base here. Now you might be saying, I have a hard time coming up with designs on my own. So that's why we're gonna look to the real world for inspiration. So this area is very Sound of Music-esque. It really reminds me of the Swiss Alps. So we are going to copy a building style from that region. Now, I see a lot of budding builders being very reluctant to sort of seek inspiration from existing houses or build styles. And let me tell you, some of the best builders in the community absolutely draw inspiration or just outright copy the designs of houses in real life. So if we go on Instagram, these are some of the best builders out there currently, and they will show you the builds that they take inspiration from. So it's not a bad thing to do this. I mean, even artists in real life take inspiration from other artists and are constantly, you know, kind of building off of other people's styles. So this is generally a perfectly acceptable thing to do, especially when you're just starting out. So the style we are going to build is the Swiss chalet. Now, because it's a real-world style, we can just go to Google Images and we can see so many different examples of what this looks like in real life. And because it's actually a real-world building style, we can actually go to Google Maps and we can go to the region where they're common. See, there's even a town here called Chalet. It has it in the title. And we can just go into Google Street View and we can see so many different examples of what this looks like. So these are some good examples. You can see there's typically a white section at the bottom, and then there's a wooden section at the top with a gradual sloping roof, and they commonly have these really ornate little railings with flowers coming off. So here's another one. And what I love about Google Maps is you can see the most random little details, like some cows that are just chilling. So what's great about these chalets is that if you look at the simpler ones, they are generally just rectangular prisms. So they're a very easy build to start with. And then if you just kind of go around on Google Maps, like if you look at this one here, let's go closer. And if you just scroll around a little bit, you'll find that some of them have some more interesting shapes. Like this one has a little like shed thing coming off. Also, look at this railing, it's beautiful. They also tend to have really colorful window panes. So that's something we could implement. Ooh, this is kind of neat. It's like stairs coming up the side of the building. Like this hotel. This hotel is beautiful. And back in Minecraft, let's start building. Now, mushroom stem blocks are really nice blocks to use for white builds, and you can use snow, but since there's so much snow in the area, I thought that would look kind of weird. Now, you might be saying, Bjork, this is supposed to be an easy beginner build. I don't have silk touch, it's just hard to get mushroom stem blocks. Well, you just gotta build smarter. You can basically farm the mushroom stems in place where you want to build by placing podzol, placing a red mushroom, bone mealing it up, and voila, you have your mushroom blocks grown in place. Now you might be pointing out, Bjork, I don't have silk touch, I can't do that, I don't have podzol. Well, you just gotta think about ways that you can put the podzol where you need it. So we can take our spruce saplings and just plant them kind of in the area where we want the podzol to be. And be sure that the blocks where you want to place your mushroom blocks are either dirt or grass first. Then you can either wait for them to grow or you can bone meal them. And just like that, you'll get the podzol to be all where you need it to be. And if you missed a few spots, you can just grow it on the other side as well. Perfect. And chances are you're gonna need a whole bunch of spruce anyway for this build, so you just gotta think about ways to make the game work for you. Right, so once you have all your podzol in place, you can just place additional red mushrooms, and you can, oops, ow. You can bone meal them and that'll just grow right like that. Now, in order to get the next one to grow, the only block you have to break is the one right above it. So we'll just go like so. Perfect. After that, it didn't take too long to grow all of my walls exactly where I wanted them. And then it was fairly easy to just remove all of the extra blocks I didn't want. Now, having farmed stems and then used them elsewhere before, let me tell you, this method is just so much better. Taking inspiration from one of the houses on the Google Maps, I put this little stairway with a walkway here. We can make this flat wall look a little bit more interesting by breaking it up into different sections using stripped spruce, instead of making it all just the same color. For the front of the building, we can imitate the ornate railings we saw with some podiums, and we can break it up with some sections for flowers, just to add a little bit more visual interest. We can also break up the rest of the wall into little sections using stripped spruce, just as we did on the other side. We can also use some mangrove wood to add the brightly colored window panes that we saw on Google Maps. Now, we can start experimenting with shapes that are a little bit more complex than a plain rectangle by making a simple section that juts off from the house just like so. And we interrupt this building for free llama delivery. Hey, be careful with my llamas, please. Our very first llamas! How exciting. Oh my goodness. I'm just concerned this goat is gonna hurt my llamas, so you? Go in the... There we go. I would like to eventually have a llama of every single wool color in this area. You can let me know in the comments what I should name this one and what color I should make it. Ooh. I kinda like the gray. Anyway, back to building. Now, when I'm designing new houses, oftentimes I find they look really weird until you put the roof on. So if you don't like your house, just put a roof on it. Now, a lot of the time, roofs just look like they're missing something until you put a trim on it. And there you have it, folks. We have completed our simple Swiss chalet. Oh, no, no, no. Don't die. Please don't die. Boy. That was a close one. Okay, so my llama just got hit by a goat and it has no hearts. So I went and I got all of these hay bales, so... okay. Perfect. Anyway... this is the final build, and if we just go up this way, you can see the interior. Just kidding, there is no interior. Interiors are a subject unto themselves, so we will save that for a future date. But if we just go down here, I threw a little storage room together pretty quickly. So this kind of shows you why you want to build in odd numbers. So if this section was only 2 wide, then you wouldn't be able to put the crafting table in the middle like this, and it just wouldn't look right. Over here, we can see an example of how an accent stripe can really help a plain wall become just so much more interesting. And there's another one over here. So this is just a little entryway over here, and you can come out the side. So I think I have more storage in here than I do in my actual base, which is nice because I want to build a whole bunch of other things in this area. So there's a big flower forest out front here, and I was thinking it would be really cute to have a bunch of buildings that are all like themed for different flowers that, you know, actually produce that flower. In the meantime, though, we really have to do something about this terrain because it is not safe for Bjorks or for llamas. But in all seriousness, I've made a bunch of block by block tutorials on this channel, but to be honest, I just kind of really like playing in survival. So I thought it would be fun to start a little survival series where, maybe I show you how to build things. Because I've really liked watching a lot of big YouTubers, and I have found when I tried imitating what they do in survival, it's not really that easy. So I thought maybe I could teach you some stuff about the game, or just like redstone or building. Now, I feel like the YouTube meta nowadays is just like really over-edited videos in hardcore, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just really like playing survival, and I like the idea of a really long-lasting world that is really built up and very intricate, and there's just so much stuff in it, so that's honestly what I hope to accomplish with this world. And I hope that you will come along with me for the journey. And in any case, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!